Rickey Smiley Morning Show, Jeff Johnson. 3 things that we all need to know. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning, y'all. How you feeling this morning?
Yeah, what up, Jeff?
What up, Jeff?
So listen, y'all, if we didn't know anything, we know that President Trump knows how to use the military. I think we saw this weekend that the U.S. military carried out an operation to use bombers to alleviate a nuclear threat in Iran. And I think before we even debate the constitutionality, the implications, I think we do have to admit that we got an efficient U.S. military. And this military operation was probably and arguably one of the most strategic and successful we've seen in quite some time. You had over 150 planes in the air, and you had targets in multiple areas from submarines to bombers. You had no U.S. military fired upon, no casualties, no errors, and what seems to be something that caught the Iranian government totally off guard because they didn't even scramble jets in any form of defense. And so if you respect the U.S. military, then this was a great military effort. Now, the question is, was it legal? And there's a great deal of debate when you talk about Article 2 and what the president has the ability to do with or without Congress. Some of you may or may not know that there is clearly a article that outlines what the president has the ability to do. And I think that there's a distinction, and Kay, I'm interested in your thoughts here, that there's a difference between using the U.S. military and declaring war. Right. And I think that those in the Trump administration are saying that the president of the United States has the ability to use the military, and that in this case it was a one-off event that is not a declaration of war. And I'm curious what you think about that.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't a declaration of war per se, but there's also some thought that that Iran, that the targeted areas that Iran had already moved a lot of the materials away from those areas because they did have some prior knowledge that something like this might happen, and that Trump may have been using this as a somewhat of a distraction from his negative ratings and this big bad bill thing and the whole L.A. disaster. And there's a lot of, there's a whole wag the dog theory going on here that he may have been doing this to try to gin up some, hey, I'm really a tough guy. And our we all know our military is A1. That's never been a question. Our military is, the capability has never been in doubt. I just think that there's some other.
To your point, we've seen this before. I mean, you've seen when we gave false intelligence information to justify an attack in Iraq.
Exactly.
And whether it was about money, because wars create opportunity to spend, or whether it was, to your point, showing that you're a tough guy in the name of a number of political and social defeats. But we're here now. And I don't think that we are clear about the full implications of what Iran can do. There's a lot of conversation this morning about sleeper cells, about Iranians who are already in the country and in places where Americans are, that it may not be a military response, but it may be a terrorism response. And that is, I think, one of the real dangers of the moment is that we don't really know how. Yeah.
And your thought on this, when you have an administration that lies as much as this administration lies and isn't honest about anything that they say, how can you take anything official that they put out as having any kind of credibility as far as what was hit and what was successful and what was, because they lie every single day.
And we already saw that in the immediate response, right? I mean, you saw that the administration talked about that they had obliterated their nuclear capabilities, and then you heard from the Joint Chiefs that they had disabled their military capabilities. And so I agree with you there. I'm actually less concerned about what I hear an administration saying who I don't rely on, and I'm more concerned about an Iranian regime that, whether they are actually weak or not, has the ability to create real challenges, whether it's for Americans abroad or whether it's Americans here. And I think that is what we have to have some clarity on. And we don't know that. I don't care what the U.S. intelligence community says. You do not know what the supreme leader is going to do, nor do you know what those other Iranian factions are going to do in response to this attack. And this is still a larger geopolitical issue as it relates to our relationship with Israel. And what this means for us moving forward. So I don't profess to be a expert in international affairs and relations, nor do I profess to be an expert in the Middle East. And so I, in many cases, like many of you, are trying to gauge as much information as I can. But those are the things that I'm concerned with. And we've got to. This is a time that is going to be very interesting in the next week to see what happens. But I will say this before I get out of here, that in the midst of all of this, I continue to see and celebrate those of us that are doing amazing work. I'm in Cleveland. I've been here all weekend, and just big up to the NAACP here. I was here with Nicole Hannah-Jones, the author of 1619, and assisted Tenora Mia, who did an amazing event here celebrating our folks, called the Black and Pink Gala. I loving how we keep supporting each other in the midst of all of this. And I'm sorry, the Pink and Black honors, just celebrating our folks. So y'all, wherever you are, keep doing what you're doing. In the midst of all this geopolitical reality, we still have the power to do things on a daily basis that impacts our lives. Right. Y'all, those are 3 things I got for you. Hit me at Jeff's Nation on IG. Love y'all. Talk to you.
Love you, Jeff. More Rickey Smiley Morning Show up next.